Hello, my name is Owen, and today I will be discussing with you my booktube hot takes. Hot, straight off the press. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes I have an identity crisis. And I think of myself, I'm like, I give myself the Jean Valjean, who am I? You know what I mean? What am I doing on this channel, right? Am I a booktuber? I certainly talk about a lot of books. I talk a lot about bookish things, but I don't feel like a booktuber. I feel like there's something psychologically disconnected from what I do versus what booktubers do. Not in what we do physically or what we produce or what we talk about. I just feel like psychology is different. There's wires, there's chemicals that are crossed. Because I got a lot of thoughts about the content that's being produced by a lot of these channels, right? And I do have a lot of channels that I follow, a lot of channels that I greatly enjoy. And the ones that I enjoy the most all have something very in common. And I feel like we're gonna be unpacking that a little bit today in this video because there's some things that they do in this space, in this booktube space, that I quite frankly, might I say, I do not enjoy. Dare I say, it's a waste of time to view. Now, I'm not going to be calling out any specifics, right? I'm not trying to catch any heat. But that being said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do if I did, right? I got nothing to lose. I'm crazy. I got nothing left. Anyway, but I'm not going to do that because, quite frankly, if I don't enjoy your content just because I find it a little bit boring, and in that case, it's not a crime. Boring's not a crime. And also, every channel I've ever watched has had way more subscribers than me. So honestly, it's like an ant punching at the giants above, right? One day we'll get them to topple, boys. You just wait for that day. But until then, let's just talk a little bit about what I like and what I dislike. First things first, here's a hot take that I feel like is the coldest of all my hot takes in the sense that I feel like a lot of people have it, so it's not that hot, it's just a take. Short content, rarely good. Very rarely good. I had TikTok for a while. It was melting my brain, so I deleted it, but I still am an avid user of YouTube Shorts and Instagram, whatever they call theirs. Because I get lost in the sauce, and it's a real problem. And I feel like it's a problem for my generation that there'll be studies about for years to come. I think it's doing something horrible to our health. That being said, I love getting lost in the sauce. And I used to get a lot of like booktube content, and the occasional one would appear in my YouTube Shorts. But I so vehemently dislike them that I think the algorithm's like, we got to stop showing them. Not that I was disliking videos, because like if you're going to dislike a video, like what? Don't you have something better to do, right? If you're disliking my video right now, like don't you have something better to do? Come on. But like, so I'd get like videos, right? And I've made a short about that. Ironic, I've made a short about this in the past where people will like do a short that's like this. If you're about to enter a world of magic and mischief, don't you think that you want a book that'll... And then the video goes on for minutes long. Oh, and this book is sure to knock your socks off. The characters are so beautiful, and all their names remind me of happy. What's the book? And at the very end, they'll go, restart. So you're like, what? And you watch it again, and like, thank God, like most of those apps have had like a fast forward feature. Because like they just make you watch it 1,000 times just so they could get their watch hours up. And it's just like, that's so, like, you told me nothing about the book. And just in general, like, there'll be like a video where you stack the books on top of each other, like, books that make you think of winter. Okay, what are any of those books about? Why should I read them? There's not enough time to, like, get, like, the connection, right? That's not to say there's not some good shorts. Some people make a good pitch in 30 seconds, in a minute, or whatever it is. But a lot of them, it's a waste of time. And occasionally I'll just get, like the most... This is mean. I get like the most generic people talking the most generic things about a generic sounding book. And it's just, it's those moments where I get the strength to close the app, right? Give me something interesting. Give me an explosion, right? For a short. That being said, on that note, long form content on BookTube, overproduced. It's overproduced. Not to say that my content is not extraordinarily underproduced, right? I put very little tactile effort into these videos other than hitting the start button, and I let my mouth run wild, right? Like a gazelle I just let it go and I never reel it in. And that's why these videos are so much longer than they need to be. But but a lot of these videos, and I feel like there's a correlation too, with almost every social media presence, source, there's a direct correlation between number of subscribers, quality of content, how much I begin to dislike it. They all correlate, right? There's, and this isn't just booktube too. This is almost every internet-based thing, right? They reach a certain point. This is even outside the internet. This is just a thing. It gets so big, they make so much money that like they lose a little bit of like the charm, right? In BookTube's case, they start editing their videos a little bit too much. Maybe your thumbnails are looking a little bit too clean, right? Maybe you're talking about things that for just quite too big of an audience, if you know what I mean. Like you're kind of losing your niche a little bit, right? And to give a target where I feel like I can punch up at, I feel like Brandon Sanderson's channel is a great example of this. When he first started, he'd release his weekly updates. Oh, like I'm this far right into the book, blah, 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 blah. Stormlight, whatever, 5, coming out in 3 years. Bing, percentage mark. Now he has like so many videos on his channel that I don't watch any of his content anymore. I don't even know if he still does the weekly updates. He's doing like 3-hour-long podcasts split into 7 parts full of strangers where they talk about his books. He's doing like 17 podcasts. He's doing like, it's just like, it was cool having an author on YouTube. I feel like I was overwhelmed with the amount going on, right? I just feel like it was a little bit much. And in the case of specific like booktubers, like just specific like people who review books, they start adding the special effects. They start heavily doing it. They start making like documentaries, right? If you want to do that, that's fine. But like, that's not what I came here for. And if you like that, you like that. But it's a hot take for a reason. Because like, I personally think it should get out. I don't want to watch a documentary. That's what Netflix is for, guys. Don't forget, Netflix has good documentaries. Everyone says it has horrible content. It has great documentaries, okay? Just saying, just throwing that out there. But I just think that I need more explosions in the shorts. I need less editing in the long ones. Because I feel like BookTube is at its best when it's just people talking about the things that they're passionate about. And I feel like the bigger channels get, the more, I don't know if it's the pressure they feel. I don't know if it's like metrics and sponsors and stuff like that. You feel like you can't like be as free talking as you once were. You kind of lose that charm, that personal charm that made you so interesting in the first place and got you that following. That's just my personal take, right? And to that point, I think niche channels, this is my third hot take, by the way. You can't really tell when I'm moving on. Niche channels are almost always more entertaining than non-niche channels, right? I follow a lot of like fantasy niche channels, but I also follow like other niches, like people who are into other genres or people that are just into like historical fiction and stuff like that. And like I watch them specifically for their specific niche. Because another thing too is about like when you get so big, part of the reason you're so big is because you apply to the widest audience possible. And like I said, you lose kind of that personal touch. And like with the niche, you could tell the people that do have these channels, like by definition, they just know more about their specific thing. So it adds more value. Like for my own personal content, right? Some of my least favorite videos to make are the ones where I just feel like what are you talking about? And not in the way it's like this dude is rambling, because I like doing that, all right? The ones where it's like, I could have not said anything and it would have added the same amount of value. Like if we're doing a book review, right? If I read a book that I'm so neutral on, like it's fine, but like I didn't love anything about it, it's just such a dread to sit down and think about what I'm gonna say, because I have to think about what I'm gonna say, you know what I mean? I have to find something to talk about, and I feel like it really comes across in like the entertainment value of a video, versus like I'm reading a book I'm really passionate about, it all flies right off the dome piece, right? My brain goes a mile a minute, I could talk for hours, and sometimes I do. And I feel like that shows, you could tell how much I actually am enjoying the process of creating video, but how long it actually is. If I'm doing a review and it says parentheses, quick review, and it's 5 minutes long, you just know right before I hit start, I was like, please no, end it all. You know what I mean? But if I'm just rambling, I'm spitting off, it means there was something there. And that's like from a content creator's perspective. But on the audience viewpoint, I feel like it's like a subconscious thing that I pick up on where I'm like, this is the most boring review I've ever seen. Let me know what it is you love about this book. And if you don't love it, it's not like a video to make. And I feel like a lot of content on the internet, the reason we're so like overwhelmed is because it's just like it's quantity. Not saying that like quality, it's not about like quality of like the quality of your content, the quality of your speech. It's just like you need to like be talking about something that like matters to you. It has to matter to you. And that's the very baseline. It's the baseline for any great story, right? If the author doesn't have a point, a purpose, a meaning, right? A reason they want to write it, it's gonna be a horrible book. It's gonna be a horrible movie. It's gonna be a horrible TV show. You look at content like Rings of Power. It just felt corporate, didn't it? A little bit. Why? Because what was the theme behind it? What was like the moving forward of it? Is it because of the love of Middle Earth, or was it because Amazon wanted to cash in on their IP? Right? Not to say there wasn't elements of passion, because of course there was, but the main one wasn't passion. It was greed. It was business, right? And I feel like a lot of content, we're talking about booktube here, but just in general, right? It just loses that spark. And that's why niche channels, I feel like if you're in a niche, you're more likely to deeply love one specific thing and be able to talk about it at length. But that's not to say that niche channels don't get caught up in it too. I've seen a couple of niche channels where you just end up only talking about the most popular books in that niche. Like if your niche becomes not so niche, right? So like if you're only talking about like, you only talk about the best sellers in that genre you're talking about, right? Eventually it comes up in every single video, right? Because you're trying to, you know what I mean? It's just disingenuous too. And I feel like, oh, here's another thing. Here's a hot take I just came while I was sitting here. Going back to review videos, another hot take is, this is a really hot take because I know a lot of people disagree with this. Rankings are only good if the review is positive. And it plays into, hold on. I know you disagree, because I know it's so fun to see people riled up and ramped up. I know people like it when I get ramped up too. But guess what? I feel like if you're doing a review, and there's obviously there's give and take here. There's instances where I'm wrong. I feel like there's a trend where it's like you do these hate reviews because like it's just as popular as if you love something popular, if you hate something popular, right? It's like the contrarian, right? The devil's advocate. People like clicking on things that they agree with or like even disagree with so they can argue with it. But a lot of times, a lot of reviews that are hateful are disingenuously so, to try to spark a reaction, to try to get clicks or saying something ridiculous to get clicked on. And again, you're losing that passion point, right? I'd rather talk about someone say why they love a book rather than why they hate a book, right? Because if somebody I respect, like a reviewer I respect, opens a review saying, "This is the worst book I ever heard," I'm not going to watch the rest of the video because I'm not super engaged by hate content. And also, like, if you hate it, I respect your decision and I'm not going to waste my time reading it too. So like, why would I continue watching, you know? And the only reason I would continue watching is just like the power of their personality, which I guess is like at that point, like, are they like a booktuber or are they just like an influencer? You know what I mean? If I watch their videos, no matter what they're talking about, to me, you've ascended beyond booktuber, right? You're just like a dude. You're just like dude in the non-gendered sense. You're just like a person that I like to enjoy. You know what I mean? So in that case, though, like if I'm watching you for a book review, like it. Because I'm much more likely, and the reason why a lot of booktube channels don't make review videos is because they don't get a lot of views, right? They get a lot less views than other types of videos like rankings or lists and stuff like that. And it's because like a lot of like the regular person, you're not going to look up like a random book. You know what I mean? You're not going to look up like Tagana by Guy Gabriel K review if you've never read it or you're not planning on reading it. It's only when you get to the point where it's like you've heard of the book, someone mentioned it, you're interested in it, you Google a review, that's when you watch it, or you just finished it, you want to see what other people are talking about. That's when people watch it. So it's just niche in general. Like people rarely click on random reviews of books. unless they really, really like the person making the review. So in that case, like, you better love it, or you better hate something very, very specific that you could talk about, or like I said, I dread making those kind of reviews. They're just so uninteresting. And I feel like it's, if people stuck to only making reviews of things that they loved and were passionate about, a lot of those bigger channels would still be making reviews instead of making a lot less than they used to. You know what I mean? And that being said as well, channels that do reviews, but they do like 17 books in one video review, I feel like that also loses a lot of value, because again, you're just like, it's like widespread, right? You lose that niche again. It's like, oh, I read 14 books and here's all my reviews. This one was pretty good. Cut. Ooh, reading. Oh, I finished this book too. Okay, I feel like I walked away from this video. I know 14 book titles, right? Don't really know anything deeply like about any of them, and maybe some will catch my interest, but I just feel like too, if you're really in the weeds for booktube like I am, I don't need any more recommendations, especially if you're gonna give me no plot specific details. That's why I hate these videos, right? What kind of book it? I don't got time for that. At this point, I'm getting book recommendations from authors that I discover, from the niche booktubers who I know I trust about a genre, and they talk really passionately about it. Or people that comment on my channel that they read similar things as me, and they say, if you like this book, you're gonna love this book, right? That kind of personal recommendation is always gonna be so much more value than the shotgun spread recommendation that I feel like the space is inundated with, just by nature of the social media beast, right? And if it's a social media beast, call me the poacher, because I'm coming in. Little old me, am I right? And then finally, rankings are overused. That's my final hot take. And that's not to say that I don't love a good ranking video, but it just goes back to my thesis of less is more. I can just tell when a ranking video is like, oh, like they're definitely gonna look up like best fantasy books of all time. Not that I don't have that video, because I do, guys, I do. But I just feel like one thing I learned, or one thing I was reminded by BookTube, is just how many thousands upon thousands, millions of books that there are that are not just out there, but that are good, right? So when I see a list that's like top 10 fantasy novels of all time, like it's just inherently, like by definition of what it is, it's wrong. Because I know this person didn't read every single fantasy book, right? And when I did my favorite top 10 fantasy favorite books, looking back at that list, it was so enormously trash, right? Because since that was before I read good old Robin Hobb. And if I really did that list today, the last 3 books of hers that I read would be on that top 10 list. So it's immediately invalidated by the more I read, right? So I feel like videos, even just rewording to like ranking my top 10 favorite, just like the slight differences, and there is a difference too, and you could tell when you want to watch these videos versus when someone trying to tell you what the top 10 best books are versus like them just sharing their opinions and what they are interested in. Because the thing that I do like about ranking videos is that it allows social media or specifically booktube creators to talk about things outside of a specific book. That's outside of like the confines of like, oh, I'm doing a Robin Hobb review, so like I only can talk about Robin Hobb. In a ranking, they could talk about what they're passionate about. They could talk about their favorite book of all time. They could talk about why they like it. They could talk about, like, you know what I mean? The things that draw them in about this hobby. And I just feel like if I had a thesis, if I had a theme for this video, is that it's just going down the road of BookTube's getting a lot of traction. People are making more and more money. And then you kind of lose the charm a little bit. And it's always a little bit of like, old man shakes his fist at cloud, right? Like, embrace the progress, right? I already get it. I get what you're trying to say. It just concerns me when I see channels I like. Honestly, they kind of lose it a little bit. And that's just a hot take. It's a hot take, guys. That's all I got for you. And if I didn't have enough complaints about social media, let me leave you with this. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like the video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like the video and like to see more like it in the future. until I make so many videos that the man you see today is a shell of his former self. All right? Nah. Thanks for sticking around, guys. It's all in good fun. It's all in good fun. I got the stand for this one, guys. You love it when I stand. My heels didn't touch there. I missed. I'm not doing it again, though.